Alrighty, hi, it's Paul here, and today we're just going to do a kind of an intro to guitar, a beginning sort of lesson, as if you're not familiar with playing the instrument at all. So one of the things we need to jump into right away, so we are on the same page when we're talking about the instrument itself, and I'm trying to give direction to you, or any teacher's trying to give you direction, or you read something in a book, it's good to understand the parts of the instrument and the way we will refer to, say, the strings, the fingers, that sort of thing. So on your guitar, you kind of just have these big basic pieces. This is the headstock, often just referred to as the head. These are the tuners, as I'm sure you know. You turn those to get your strings in the right tuning. This is the neck. The neck has frets, which are these lines going across here. And we count those frets as fret 1, 2, 3, and so on all the way up. So if I were to tell you to put your finger on the 3rd fret, you'd count 1, 2, 3. Anywhere in this box is the 3rd fret. Right? Then you have the body of the guitar. If you're playing electric, you're going to have various controls down here. And then when we're talking about creating tone, we can address those issues there. When it comes to the strings, you can refer to them in a couple of different ways. You can talk to them or talk about them as the pitch that they're tuned to. So E, A, D, G, B, and E, right, from the lowest to the highest. Or you will refer to them by number, which is kind of counterintuitive, because you might think that starting here, this would be the 1 string, but it's not. This is the 6th string, the 5th string, the 4th, 3rd, 2nd, and 1st. So if I was going to help you build a basic E minor chord, I would tell you to take your 2 fingers. So over here on your left hand, you're going to have your fingers numbered 1, 2, 3, and 4. So if I was to be helping you build a very simple chord like an E minor chord, we'd say take your 2 finger, put it on the 5 string at the 2nd fret. So find our 5th string here. All right, we find our 2 finger, find our 2nd fret, 1, 2. And then we take our 3rd finger and we're going to place it on the 4th string on the 2nd fret. And then the rest of your remaining strings would stay open. And then we just strum through the chord. And that's our E minor chord. So that's a real quick, basic look at the instrument and how we'll be talking about finger placement, that sort of thing, as we move forward. So it's fingers 1, 2, 3, and 4. And your frets and the strings. It kind of gives you a grid on which to locate things. Matter of fact, if you were here with me, I'd write out a grid, and that's how we would show chord shapes or show scale forms and that sort of thing. I think of guitar in a couple of different areas. There's the area of understanding the basics or the foundations of music or music theory, and so you learn how a chord is actually built. In the theoretical sense, as far as like a root, a third, a fifth, and so on. And that's one way of thinking about how chords are built. And then there's actually how chords are voiced, what we call voicings, or how they get laid out on the guitar. And that's when we pick and choose where we're going to place our fingers on the instrument. And so you can approach this from the way of understanding the theory and building the basic chord in a way that we might call that a triad, just that kind of thing. Or that we will learn in a more mechanistic sort of way by learning shapes on the instrument. And we'll learn these different voicings. And I think it's important to understand both, to understand kind of the mechanisms just by shape, but then to also understand what's going on so you can apply that knowledge later if you want to be able to, I guess, more fully use those chords, whether you're improvising over them later or you want to restructure a chord to put a melody note on the top of your voicing, that sort of thing. Of course, that's more advanced and that's down the road. So for today's lesson, what we'll do is I'll write out 4 different chords that I want you to try to learn the shapes of. And for right now, we're not going to worry about the actual notes that are being used in that, but we're just going to learn the shapes. And if you can see the shapes on the video, that's great. If not, I'll write these down for you. But we're going to learn the 4 chords that are used predominantly in all kinds of music, regardless of style. But you'll see these chords everywhere. These are chords you're going to use the rest of your life as a musician, and so it's worth spending the time learning these. I wouldn't even think of these as beginner chords, even though they're some of the first shapes that you're going to learn. You're going to use these shapes for the entirety of your time as a musician, and especially as a guitar player. So the first chord shape is going to be G, and I won't go through talking through each spot that my finger's on, even if you can't see it on the video, because I would write this down for you. But that's going to just sound like that, just a nice, simple, beautiful chord. The next chord is going to be C. Same thing, you'll find these shapes on the sheet. The next chord is going to be E minor. And then the final chord is going to be D. So your first step in learning this is to just sit and just try to get that chord shape formed. Once you can memorize the chord shape, you have it stuck in your mind, and you really, you don't have to go back and look at the sheet anymore. You just can make the shape. Even just spend some time practicing, putting your hand down, taking it off. Putting your hand on the shape, taking it off. Even just that repetition, it gets you can strum or not. I mean, really what we're working on is just the mechanism, right, of just getting that hand in shape, being able to grab those chords. Now, the next thing you want to be able to do is to sound each individual string clearly. Now, one of the things that's going to help with that is how you attack the string with your fingertips. We actually use our fingers in multiple ways, but one of the foundational or fundamental things that we need to learn is to use the very tips of our fingers, that very tip pad. And that'll toughen up over time. These first few weeks, it's going to be a little bit, it might even be a little bit painful at times if you practice long enough, because they'll be sore. But you give it a couple days and they'll toughen up and develop a callus there, and then you'll be able to play for hours. It'll be great. But once you can make those shapes, you understand, you remember them, you've memorized them. What you're going to do is you're going to make sure that tip of that finger is right on the string, and that it's only touching the string that you want to affect. Okay? And once you have all of those touching, the way you find out if you're playing it correctly is by just taking your pick over here. We haven't talked about this yet, but we're going to start with pick playing, and if we want to move on to finger style playing later, that's great. But I think playing with a pick is a really good way to start. And so you just hold the pick between your thumb and your first finger, and you just have a little bit sticking out there like that. And then what we're going to do in the beginning here is just work with downstrokes. Okay, so whether we're strumming multiple strings or playing one string at a time, we're going to just do downstrokes. Okay, so with this configuration, I've got it down there. If I want to know if my voicing is sounding good, then I just pick each string. So if they're all clear, then I know I'm voicing it right. Then I can strum it all the way through. Okay? Now once you have this, we're going to move on to another little exercise, and that's just the changing between the chords. So you want to be able to change from G to C to E minor to D. Right? And at first, we're not even going to worry about time. We haven't even talked about rhythm yet. We're just working on mechanism and getting the clarity of the notes to come through. Because even from the beginning, I want you to think about tone. How does this sound? Because we can be doing what we think is the right thing, but be getting sounds like, hear those? If I'm not fretting that properly, I get this real ugly kind of tone, ugly kind of sound. And so you want to be thinking about tone, thinking about sound, even from the beginning. How clear are my notes coming through, right? Okay, so you're just going to do that and work on being able to change from chord to chord, not worrying about time at all. Just one chord to the next, to the next, to the next. And it'll be the same order over and over again this first week. It's just G, C, E minor, D. Okay, and we'll just work with those shapes over and over. Once you get comfortable with those shapes where you're able to just go from one to the other without much of a hitch, then we start adding time. Now, the most basic time that we work with is called 4/4 time, which means there are 4 beats in a measure, or if we were looking at a sheet of music, you'd see one bar to the other, and we'd have, that would be a measure. So there's going to be 4 beats in that measure, and what we call the quarter note gets that beat. And so then what we're going to do is we're going to give 4 beats, or one measure, to each chord. And so what I want you to do is get your metronome. You can either have like a standalone unit like this, or you can find a metronome on your phone, like an app, and be able to play along that way. And so then what we're going to do is I'm just going to set this at 75 beats a minute, and we're going to turn the metronome on. And I want you to get a sense of that pulse. Really feel where that rhythm is landing every time. And what we're going to do is we're just going to strum once for every 4 beats. But the important thing is to land on that downbeat. And so you're going to do this same progression, landing on that downbeat, okay? So, in order to know where that downbeat is, you're going to want to count yourself off, right? So get a feel for how it's going and be just counting in your head or out loud. You can count 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, ready, go. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2. If you get comfortable now, start doing quarter notes. 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And so on. And if it really starts to become comfortable, then you subdivide that even more and do what we call eighth notes. We'll address this a little more directly in a book, but for this week that'll be enough, I think. And if you can move your way through that, then we'll start working on other mechanisms that will kind of take you forward. All right, thanks a lot. Have a good day. Bye-bye.